as First Alert Weather Days. For the threat of feels like temperatures reaching the triple digits, we're on your side with just how warm it's going to get and how you can stay safe.
And the first day of astronomical summer is on the way. We talk about the science behind the summer solstice and what time we can officially expect the beginning of the summer season.
Live on your side, First Alert Weather Extra starts right now.
But first, it's a nice evening for a stroll through the new Coca-Cola Amphitheater. This weekend is the first ever show at the venue, and everyone's getting ready. They're hosting a sunset sound check tonight until 9 p.m., where the community will be able to enjoy a sneak peek and explore the venue and amenities. I'm surprised they didn't ask you to come out, Wes.
Hey, let's go. I'm ready. I was talking to someone the other day. I'm ready for a show. I always love to get out when the weather's warm like this. It's just great to go out, catch a good concert, you know. And they have quite a lineup this week. I mean,
they do.
Yeah, from Dave Matthews to actually Sunday night that there will be a show. We'll show you that forecast coming up. But hot weather.
Yeah, there's that. I mean, yeah, it's concert weather. You expect it to kind of be steamy outside.
Yeah, it's summer in Alabama, but we're kind of going into a phase here where this is the first round of heat advisories. Triple-digit feels like temperature. So that's why we have called First Alert Weather Days. Get you prepared here for some big-time heat coming up this weekend, and also a few storms. Let's talk about it. And we are tracking a few showers and storms out there, but these are the first heat advisories of the season. They include parts of West Alabama for tomorrow afternoon, and we'll likely see more of these Saturday and Sunday and Monday. So plan for hot weather, highs in the 90s. The heat index in general, those peak values ranging between 98 to 108 degrees through the middle of next week. And again, some storms are possible. Some of those could be strong to severe. Still got to watch out for those in the afternoon, those heat-activated pop-up thunderstorms. We've seen some of those. You look at the radar, and as we talked about, big decrease in the coverage of storms today, but some storms are out there. And you look at these little pop-ups on the radar, and they look rather tiny, but there's quite a bit of lightning with some of these. There's you can see a couple cells going up around Kellington, around Coosa County, not far from Sylacauga. In fact, Lauren will probably want to check that Oak Grove camera. We'll probably have a good view of that storm there south of Sylacauga. But Childersburg, you can see we do around Harpersville see quite a bit of lightning showing up here. This is drifting to the south and southeast of Wilsonville, just giving you that first alert for possibility of some lightning. Need to be indoors as that tracks to the south right there in the parts of Shelby County. Carbon Hill, just south of you, still tracking this storm. It has weakened quite a bit, the one that was moving out of Fayette County, and it's drifting slowly to the southeast. And there are some storms over East Mississippi. If these hold together, a lot of lightning right now around the Tupelo area. Just letting you know, in Marion and Lamar counties, some of those storms could move our way. But we are counting down to the arrival of summer, which is tonight at 9:42. Tomorrow will be the first full day of the summer season, the summer solstice, and the heat is right on track here. Again, this is the first round of some of those extreme heat index values after all the rain we've had, and a lot of that muggy air. It's just not going anywhere. The ground's been very saturated, so the low levels are going to stay very humid. We're still going to see, again, those heat index values in the triple-digit range. So here you go. Lauren's actually bringing up that live view. This is just south of Oak Grove and Sylacauga, that one storm that has popped up there over southern Talladega County. So looking back in the south direction, that downpour is right on the Coosa Talladega line. So for all of our friends there between Sylacauga and Rockford, just stay alert for that threat of lightning as those storms are popping up. We're going to see more of these again tomorrow afternoon, but you can see that heat index there through Sunday in the triple-digit range. But with these hotter conditions, you'll want to, of course, you know the drill, try to get an early start. Take frequent breaks, loose light-colored clothing. Just make sure you pack a few extra bottles of water if you're out by the lake, by the pool tomorrow. Just make sure you have also that sun protection. I know we talk about the heat, but also be sun safe out there. Make sure you have the SPF on and make sure you have that UV protection. We're going to have plenty of sunshine in the mix, but again, some afternoon storms that we will be tracking. But this heat, again, Lauren, it's coming in for the first day of summer in terms of daylight. I had to make sure I clarified that on my Facebook page. I said the longest day of the year in terms of daylight.
Right, that's right, Wes. I don't know, some days in winter I feel like it's the longest day of the year because there just isn't much light around. But yes, today marks the start of the summer solstice. So the reason we have seasons is actually because of the tilt of the Earth's axis. So we want to give you the weather lowdown on how that exactly works. So obviously the Earth makes its revolution around the sun, typically about 365 days a year. So as the Earth is orbiting around the sun, at different points you can experience the change in the season. So right now the northern hemisphere, where we live here in the U.S., is tilted towards the sun, and the tilt of the Earth's axis is 23.5 degrees. So when the northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun, that marks the summer solstice, which officially begins tonight at 9:42 p.m. Central Time. So technically we still got a couple more hours of spring before summer officially arrives. So it kind of makes sense that summer would be for us when the northern hemisphere is tilted towards the sun versus when winter begins for us on the winter solstice in December. We're tilted away from the sun. So right now the sun's direct rays are above the Tropic of Cancer, but when we get into the winter months, the sun's direct rays are above the Tropic of Capricorn, which is in the southern hemisphere. So that's when their summer begins and our winter begins. So while for us here in the northern hemisphere we are embarking upon that journey towards summer, if you're in the southern hemisphere, winter begins today. But let's look at that long daylight that we're getting. Tonight, the sun isn't setting until 8 o'clock. Enjoy it while it lasts. I know we've got a couple of isolated storms around, but this would be a great excuse to do something outside tonight. And then tomorrow morning, the sun is rising at 5:37, and that is why I sleep with an eye mask on. But eventually, in the days ahead, we're slowly, ever so slowly, going to be losing daylight as we get closer to eventually the fall equinox. Well, we're not the only ones experiencing the heat this weekend. Extreme heat warnings, heat advisories, and extreme heat watches are in place from the plains to the Northeast. By Sunday, more than 200 million Americans will see temperatures at or above 90 degrees. This means daily high temperature records that date back to the 19th century could possibly be broken in New York City and Pittsburgh. So no denying we are heating up this summer. And one thing we really wanted to talk about in the days ahead is not just the fact that it's going to be hot the next couple of days, but we kind of want to look at how temperature patterns have changed over time. We talk about the climate a lot here on Weather Extra because we're always want to give you that extra. So you can have natural changes in the climate, which has happened since the Earth was created, but sometimes you can also have human influence on the climate. And you can see that here as we look at the global temperature change since the Industrial Revolution back in the 1800s. And you can see across the globe within the past several decades there has been a marked warming, and so that you can see in what we call the Show Your Stripes movement. So meteorologists and scientists all across the globe today are showing their stripes to talk more and bring awareness to the impacts we can have on climate. And you can see here in the United States it's not quite as crystal clear. The world has always gone through natural periods of cooling and warming. That is just how climate works. We have these natural cycles, but we want to be careful that we're not exacerbating that with human activity. And you can see that has really been exacerbated within the past century and a half, really, with the Industrial Revolution. Now, here in Alabama, you can see these cooler periods. There was a very warm period for us back around the Dust Bowl in the 30s. And then you can see we got kind of cooler in the 60s and 70s, but really within the last decade or so, things have really been marked in the warming. So when you see the red, that marks temperatures above average for a year, and the blue marks temperatures below average. So we'll always be investigating the climate and giving you stories on that here on Weather Extra. But hey, in 30 seconds, we continue to talk about the latest for the First Alert weather days heading into the weekend and take you to parts of the country who were impacted by severe weather just yesterday. We'll be right back.
And welcome back into First Alert Weather Extra. I want to make sure that we show you where we have some of this rain popping up across parts of the area. We are tracking some spotty showers you can see around parts of Wilsonville. There's still some lightning detected in here. These are very tiny downpours, but they are drifting to the south and also to the north and east, tracking some decaying storms. That there was one that was quite significant that moved across Hubbardville, but that has now weakened. That's tracking near Oatman and around Glen Mary. It looks like we also have around Highway 13 there in south of Haleyville a little pop-up. Might get some lightning with this soon, so just stay alert for the threat of lightning over the next hour to a couple of hours. Basically, that's about it. I think as we go into tonight, those storms and showers will dissipate quickly. We do have First Alert weather days coming up for some of those triple-digit feels-like temperatures. The heat levels on the rise. We don't totally go zero on the rain chances, however. We'll show you more on what's on the way for next week and that extended 10-day forecast coming up.
Yeah, Weston, you were just mentioning those isolated storms that are moving across tonight. They could be lightning producers. So if you're here in Birmingham and going to the Birmingham Barons game tonight at Regions Field as they take on the Columbus, Georgia Clingstones, the game starts at 7 p.m. and we were tracking that one little thunder shower near Walker County. So I don't want to totally rule out there could be an isolated shower in the vicinity at game time. So certainly want to be mindful. That's why you set your WBRC First Alert weather app to receive lightning and precipitation notifications, so you know if anything's going on this summer. Rain chances will be fading away though once we get to sunset. Otherwise, just mild and muggy. No surprises there. Now for tomorrow, for that Rock the South forecast, each day we've had a chance of storms, and there will still be a chance of at least some isolated storms for tomorrow during the afternoon. But if you don't have an isolated storm around, just know it's going to be hot and muggy, so make sure you're drinking plenty of water, staying hydrated, and wearing your sunscreen. And then for Sunday, we keep talking about how the Coca-Cola Amphitheater is kicking off its opening weekend. Sunday at 7:30 p.m., Matt Rife will be playing his Stay Golden Tour. So if you're headed to that, there is still that possibility of at least a few isolated storms earlier in the afternoon and evening. But I think as we go past sunset on Sunday night, should be drying out and, shocker, just warm and muggy. Well, a major cross-country highway is shut down in the Great Smoky Mountains today. This comes after rain, flooding, and a rock slide made a section of I-40 too dangerous for traffic. Video from the scene shows crews scooping up mud next to a stuck tractor trailer. Meanwhile, floodwaters race down the hill towards the roadway. And in New York, a giant sinkhole shut down a road on Thursday. It happened one day after record rainfall caused a flood of problems for people in the Rochester area. Carly Miner takes a look at the damage.
Wednesday's rainfall left parts of Livingston County underwater. These are just some videos and photos taken in the last 24 hours.
It's total chaos.
Cameron Copeland tells me he took a drive today from Lakeville to Avon and was shocked by what he saw.
I took some aftermath pictures and showed that there was about 2.5 to 3 feet of sediment just laying in the road. And then today I went around to other sites and just took the aftermath video of roads being washed out.
Spencer Brisbane lives in an apartment complex near Canisius Lake. He tells me he lives on a hill and still got flooding.
What happens is the creek gets full of debris and it kind of dams up, and then when we get rainfall like we did yesterday, it washes it all out down to the culvert on Westlake Road, and it plugs.
They both tell me they haven't seen rain like this in years.
The last time I remember seeing anything like this was, I don't think ever.
These images show some of yesterday's damage. Roads broken apart and collapsing, steady water running under railroad tracks, and even roadways covered in floodwaters.
I always hope that nobody gets hurt and property can be replaced.
Still ahead, we're back in summer camp today as we meet our newest junior weather watchers and we talk about what you can expect for the rest of your Friday evening. We'll see you after the break. And welcome back in. A live look from Avadia Credit Union here in Vernon. You can see some of those clouds moving in from the west direction. Those are actually clouds from some of those tall thunderstorms over into Mississippi. A lot of times you can see those tall storms that go up thousands of feet. The higher clouds with that anvil sometimes can blow way downstream, and that's what we're seeing. That's actually from storms that are miles away. You can see over the state line, but those clouds get caught up in the upper flow and get stretched out to the east direction. But if these hold together now, they could end up in parts of Marion and Lamar County. So we need to watch these, some of the more intense storms that we see on the radar. But again, we did have some of that pop-up development over in the western and southern areas. Some spotty cells trying to go up around the Childersburg area, nothing too extreme. There's one little storm, looks like it's trying to pop up around the Adamsville area. But the big story, we got a summertime ridge building in, and that means hot weather. We know it's just, we've been saying it's a matter of time. It's been hot and steamy already, but we kind of go to the next level here. Our first heat advisories of the summer coming up tomorrow. We'll probably see more of those Sunday and Monday. So that's why we have called first alert weather days into next week. Heat index levels could top 100 degrees. But even though over the next few days we've got the extreme heat and the humidity, that's going to feed into afternoon storm development. So it's primarily afternoon and evening. Notice tomorrow, actually tonight, storms dissipate, and then tomorrow morning a little fog perhaps out the door early in the day, but quiet weather for the first half of the day, but we heat up quickly, and then again maybe some random pop-up storms. Now the model data favors a lot of areas where we're seeing some of that development today. Again, kind of to the south there, maybe in towards parts of Coosa, Talladega County, and then parts of west Alabama. So check the weather app tomorrow if you're out around the lake, out by the pool, because there might be a couple storms, but by the evening, all that should start to dissipate. And that means good news for the first show out at the Coca-Cola Amphitheater. If you're heading out there Sunday night, just some steamy weather. For now, we'll keep those first alert weather days going into Monday. But this, again, is to basically get you ready here and give you that first alert for that first wave of really hot weather of the summer season here as we head into next week. By Wednesday, Thursday, looks like even hotter daytime temperatures. So that's probably going to drive those heat index values even higher there into the middle of next week. So don't expect any major change. It's going to stay this way, very hot and steamy through next week. But we were back in the classroom today. Meteorologist Megan Thomas traveled to West Alabama to Northport Elementary School. They were having a summer program, and she read her book and talked to the students there. Had a great time. A lot of junior weather watchers. One of the big topics, how tornadoes form and tornado safety. You can never hear that enough. Even in the summer, they even had the chance to take a look at the storm tracker. Check it out, the inner workings there, the First Alert Storm Tracker, which thankfully we're able to kind of give the storm tracker a rest here lately, and hopefully for a little while longer, right, Lauren?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the storm tracker definitely needs to be chilling for a couple months, I think. So what's not going to be chilling? Our temperatures, obviously, as we look beyond the 7-day, 8 to 14 days from now. This is looking at June 28th through July 4th, so taking us through the end of the month into early July, really through Independence Day. Looking at the possibility of above average temperatures across the southeast, and with that we could potentially see across much of Alabama above average precipitation. So you know how we had that more unsettled pattern last week, and it feels like really since May. Well, we've been seeing signs that maybe we could see that try to happen later on in the season, or later on over the next couple weeks beyond the 7-day. So here we are next Saturday. This is June 28th, and of course one thing we want to keep a close eye on is, could there be any development in the Gulf and the Caribbean? Well, things still look pretty quiet in terms of the tropics, but you will notice, at least as we get into Alabama here we are into Monday, June 30th, so the last day of the month, showing the possibility of scattered showers and storms developing each day. So kind of more coverage than we're expecting here over the next week. So that tells me, looking at this, hey, that ridge of high pressure that is really beginning to exert its influence on us, it may eventually begin to weaken. Now, it could still be hot and humid, but it looks like maybe beyond the 7-day, we could begin to see in the extended forecast a better chance of rain. Because anytime we have one of these hot patterns set up, we always want to be mindful, ooh, not going to get too hot and too long of a period with just isolated coverage, because that could eventually lead to drought. And so we're not seeing signs of that in the forecast. So if you love rain, eventually it'll be back in the forecast. Well, at a small Minnesota town, life is out of this world. John Lauriston visited Cosmos, Minnesota, where space is a major theme.
This is a first for me, Mark. I'm interviewing a guy with a Def Leppard hat on, a spaceship on his t-shirt, an alien, a chicken, and a rocket in the background.
Quite the deal, isn't it?
In most towns, this may not make a lot of sense, but this is Cosmos, a community that's a little closer to the stars.
We had a real moon rock here after the moon landings, and it came from NASA.
Mark Minnick is a Cosmos council member, a lifelong resident, and a town historian. He says Norwegian immigrant Ole Nelson built the first log house in the 1860s, but pioneer Daniel Hoyt came up with the name Cosmos as a way to bring people in. Hoyt had plans to build a major university in town.
Big, everybody would want to come, you know, full credentials, the whole, it was going to be big time, big time. The name stuck, but the university kind of didn't materialize.
But that didn't really matter, because the name is what put the town on the map. Instead of Elm and Oak Street, names you typically see, Cosmos named all its streets after planets, galaxies, and constellations. From Milky Way to Mars Street. And when you travel through town, busy Highway 7 briefly turns into Astro Boulevard. Even the water tower is space-themed. But it's nothing like the old water tower, which had a rocket sitting right on top of it, about 140 feet closer to space. It could blast off. It just won't get very far.
Those are oil barrels, and then the local blacksmith shop welded everything up, made the nose cone, made the fins, and then it got mounted on top of the water tower.
The rocket is now in the town's Space Festival parade every July. Neptune Ned and a random bird simply known as Local Chicken also make an appearance.
This is a Galactic Gazette. This is our local newsletter. It goes out once a month.
It contains space news and dad jokes. The staff includes Mark's wife, Deb, and friend Lee Meyer. Could you imagine now, Kurt, if there had been a university here or a major college?
It'd be different. Well, you can, walk down the street and you pretty much know everybody.
This Cosmos is a smaller universe, and that's okay with its space-loving residents, though some are still waiting for an alien other than Neptune Ned to pay a visit.
They exist, they just aren't showing themselves.
All right, stay alert out there. A few isolated storms. First Alert Weather Days for hot weather.